Hi everyone, I'm Michael. This is my mother.
Hello.
Welcome to Home Grace Bible Study. This week, I really wasn't sure what to talk about, but then I got some inspiration. A friend of mine on social media, on one of the social media accounts, she was posting about how when she was trying to share the gospel with someone that apparently they just kept throwing it back in her face, or they kept rejecting it, and it was very stressful to her, very frustrating.
Hurtful.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Hurtful, because all she wanted to do is share the gospel with this person, and as we know, the gospel saves. And it's the gospel of our salvation. That's in Ephesians chapter 1. But the sad reality is, we can, we can share this gospel with people all we want. We can share it till we're blue in the face. But the reality is, some people will listen. Yeah. They may actually, lean closer to you to indicate they're paying attention, and they want to hear what you're saying. Or other people may be like, yeah, when is this person gonna shut up? Yeah, that's the way humans are. And there is a third type of person. They will fight you, and they'll just put up a fight because they don't want to believe. They may even call themselves a former Christian, and that's like saying, I'm a former human. I'm no longer human. I'm no longer human. I've evolved. In fiction, that may work, sure, but not in reality. So this video may be a little bit short, but I've just got 3 places in the Bible I want to go to today, and I'm reading from the King James Bible, so I hope you're reading from my King James Bible as well. Now, before I get to the 2 primer verses, that's what I choose to call them anyway, I want to go to the gospel first.
Good.
It's 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1, 2, 3, and 4, not 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Some people seem to quote the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as part of the gospel, but it's not. Only the first 4 verses of this chapter are the gospel. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 through 4, reads as follows. Moreover, brethren, I declare unto you the gospel which I preached unto you, which also ye have received, and wherein ye stand, by which also ye are saved, if ye keep in memory what I preached unto you, unless ye have believed in vain. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the 3rd day according to the Scriptures. Now that is the gospel that we must believe in order to be saved, in order to be worthy of heaven, because on our own, we're not worthy. On our own, we're nothing but scumbags.
True.
And even after that, the view of ourselves is pretty much the same. Now, what all is Paul saying in these 4 verses? Well, I'm going to break it down.
Good.
He says in verse 1, moreover, brethren, he's talking to his brethren, the people that he knows, his kinsmen, his countrymen. He says, I declare. He doesn't say I suggest or I think or he says I declare. He's making a declaration, a statement.
He's not saying maybe or it could be or
And then he says, unto you the gospel. He's not saying a gospel. He's not saying my opinion. He's saying the gospel, which I preached unto you. He's stating, which I, Paul, preached unto you, not what Peter, not what Peter, John, or James may have said, but what I'm telling you.
And he's repeating it. He's what I preached, past tense. He'd already told him, but he's,
He refers to himself 5 times in those 4 verses. In which also ye have received and wherein ye stand. He's reminding the Corinthians that they have received this gospel, that they have believed it.
And they stand in it.
And that it's something they stand on like a solid rock foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says in verse 2, by which also ye are saved. This gospel but saves a person. As he says, if you keep in memory what I preached unto you. See, that's the second time he refers to himself. And unless ye have believed in vain. Now, how does a person believe in vain? Well, I think there's 2 ways. A person can believe something as a historical fact. For example, George Washington crossed the Delaware is a historical fact.
He was the first president.
Well, yeah, that is a historical fact, but if you want to grow as a historian of the United States, for example, then you want to apply that to your knowledge, to your brain, so that you can grow as a historian. You just don't want to say, oh yeah, I believe that, and continue on your way. Now you apply what you believe, just like he's saying here, unless you have believed in vain. Now another way is, and a person could say, oh yeah, I believe Jesus Christ died for my sins, that he was buried and rose again, but I don't think it's necessary for my salvation.
Or I think I have to do A, B, C, and D also. I have to add to the gospel.
Vain is vanity.
Right.
Person being vain is focusing on themselves. So if you believe in vain, then you're not going to be able to get the gospel. And he says in verse 3, for I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received. That's the 4th time that he refers to himself. How Christ died for our sins. That's the reason Christ died, was for our sins, according to the scriptures. And that he rose again the 3rd day. That he was buried, and that he rose again the 3rd day, according to the scriptures. I thought he referred to himself 5 times. Maybe I missed one. I think I did. But anyway, that's the basic breakdown, I believe, of the gospel. It's all about Jesus Christ, what he did for us humans. It's not about what we can do for him.
Right.
Okay, now I hate getting inspiration from bad stuff that happens. But inspiration comes when it comes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention a person's name or even get into the specifics more than I have. But there is something we need to remember when we try to share the gospel and were rejected. There are some verses in the Bible that I believe apply throughout all ages and throughout all dispensations. Like John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, the life. No man comes to the Father but before me. That still applies today, even though that was during the dispensation of law. Matthew 10, verse 14, it reads, and this is Jesus speaking, and whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. Now, it's very possible that Jesus is saying, shake the dust literally off of your feet because you probably only have sandals, and do that before you go to the next town, and they think you're some kind of bum. But also, when I read this verse, and every time I read this verse, it's encouraging to me.
I think he's saying, leave that conversation behind. Leave what all happened there behind. Move on to the next person or the next group of people with a clean slate.
With a clean slate,
And it's good advice for our life too.
When we're in a discussion about the gospel or anything for that matter, if we can't see eye to eye with the other person, then it's what we need to do. Just
shake the dust off
shake the dust off of our feet and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we'll move on with that person in mind because we can't forget a person like that very easy. But it's what we need to do for ourselves, for our own self health.
Yes. Yes. Well, we can't be a bully. Christ doesn't want us to bully people. You share the gospel with them. You make it as plain as you can. You share that you believe it and how it's affected your lives, And if they reject it or get smart-alecked or anything else, you just move on. You just, because you don't waste time with people that are going to act like that.
And I agree, and I know this is easier said, but try not to let the other person
drag
you down and stress you out. Mm-hmm. That will happen from time to time, of course, but at least, make the effort to keep that from happening. Of course, to do that, we must grow a very thick skin and detach ourselves from our emotions, which is not very easy to do. But with practice, we can do that. As the phrase goes, just the facts.
Yeah. Well, and also you can surrender that person or that group of people to Christ. Just, okay, God, I'm taking what you said and I'm moving on, shaking the dust off my feet, and I'm moving on. It's up to you. If you want these people saved, then you'll lead somebody else to talk to. Maybe it's going to take 2 or 3 people.
Exactly.
And we can't just think, oh, that was so terrible, they didn't believe it. We just go on.
And there's another kind of a sad truth that Paul the Apostle shared with us in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 37 and 38. He wrote, "If any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge the things that I write to you are the commandments of the Lord," because in this day and age we know that there are people out there who do think themselves to be a prophet and are, super spiritual. They can be some of the most annoying people.
Studied the Bible for 30 years,
yeah,
25 years.
That those people who think themselves to be better because they've read more or longer, etc., etc., etc. But what Paul says next is what really grabs my attention more than the previous verse. But if any man be ignorant, and ignorant is basically a word that means unlearned.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean stupid. It means it means unlearned. If a person does not know how to bake a cake, then they are ignorant of how to bake a cake.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they're stupid. If any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant.
Right.
That fits with Matthew 10 verse 14. If somebody's not going to listen to you, then shake the dust off your feet and go on.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't want to hear what you have to say about the truth of the gospel, then let them be ignorant, because they want to be ignorant, apparently. And I know this is not the greatest subject to touch on, but sometimes I believe it's needed. Because as much as we should defend the faith, we should be defenders of the faith when the chance arrives, we have to remember that we're not always going to win.
That's true.
And by that, I mean the other party may not always hear what we're saying, or they may not want to agree.
Well, and you don't expect instant results. They may not agree at that time, and then they may think about it later. They may get a Bible and read it. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you move on. Now that person may contact you and say, you know what you said? I've been thinking about that. Okay, then you try again.
It's all about, planting
a seed.
Planting seeds. And when it comes to social media, something I've learned, getting into debates, bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Just talk to, in my experience, and it took me quite a few years to learn this, so I'm nothing special. Just have conversations with people and share what's on your mind or what's on your heart,
mm-hmm.
and leave it at that.
Yeah.
If they want to say, I don't agree with that, or I think what you're saying is false, I think it's a bunch of baloney, let them.
Yeah.
Because, to someone else, it may be what we believe may be a bunch of baloney. And there's one thing I would like to add before we conclude is I do remember reading a statement from the person who got my friend very upset. He said under her post, I think I got this right, it's just a story like anything else. Now, there is a saying, even if a person wants to believe that the Bible is just a story, even if a person wants to believe that the Bible is just a story, there's a saying, there's something like, even in fables, there is an amount of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So even in this story, which people may consider as, there is truth.
That's true.
And like you said, Mom, person may think down the road, when maybe a week later, might be months later, might be a year or two later, hey, that person who was trying to share with me about the Bible, maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to react
or reject it,
or reject, or reject what she had to say. But anyway, that's what we have this week for you from Home Grace Bible Study. I've enjoyed it. and I hope you have too. Please do subscribe to our channel and smash the bell next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified of new uploads. And also drop us a like and share the video if you've enjoyed it so you can share with others that may benefit from it as well. I'm Michael, this is my mom, and we've had fun spending time with you today. Till next time, you have a great day.